We are dropping our initial MaxPreps Top 100 Under the Radar players for the class of 2019, with National Signing Day being exactly 3 weeks away, and it features some big-time talent all over the nation. Now, the criteria for this list includes players only who have stats or coaches that use MaxPreps.com, so make sure you guys are being active on MaxPreps and getting your stats and other information in, and it includes dudes with no Power 5 offers or major FBS schools, and most importantly, grades are also an important asset. Some of the most slept on quarterbacks on this list feature Bonita's JP Andrade. The 6'3" gunslinger's only offer is from South Alabama, and if you saw his tape, you would be shocked. He doesn't have more offers. He finished his senior season in the top 10 nationally with over 4,000 yards passing and 38 touchdowns. Some other QBs include Bishop McDevitt's Chase Steele, who might be undersized, but his mechanics, playmaking ability, and heart more than make up for it, and we have seen now smaller quarterbacks can be just as productive. Shadow Creek's JAMARIAN, who reminds me a ton of former DeSoto star quarterback Desmond White, is one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country. He helped lead the Sharks to a 15-1 record in 2018 in their first full season playing varsity football. Joining George and DIEHL is North Paulding's Ross Malgrim, who has the size at 6'4" and arm strength to play at the next level. Grapevine's Cade Rhodes is a name to keep tabs on too. The 6'4" QB sat and waited his turn behind now starting quarterback for Texas Tech Alan Bowman, and Rhodes balled out against 5A competition in the Lone Star State, leading the Mustangs to a 10-3 record, throwing for nearly 3,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. Greenwich's Gavin Muir balled out the last 2 years, throwing for over 5,000 yards and 64 touchdowns, adding another 12 scores on the ground in his last 26 games, while leading the Cardinals to an undefeated season in 2018, winning the Class LL state title. Some notable running backs selected feature modern-day Jacoby Harper, who played a huge role in leading the Monarchs to back-to-back CIF Open Division state championships. He rushed for nearly 1,300 yards and 20 touchdowns, playing against the best opponents in the country during his senior campaign. Sticking in SoCal, Corona Centennial's Thomas Kinslow is another productive back who balled out against legit competition. He's one of the hardest working dudes in the country. The #1 rusher from Texas cracks the list, and Ben Brooks, Quentin Jackson, the senior, rushed for over 3,000 yards and 37 touchdowns and finished 7th in the nation in yards rushing. The #1 rusher in 2018 is also on the list, and it's KAISER's Christian Hunter, whose loan offer is from Northern Arizona. He balled for 3,839 yards on the ground and 54 touchdowns. Bishop Gorman's Ahmad Cianelli is also featured, and he had his best game in his last high school game, rushing for nearly 300 yards and 6 touchdowns, leading the Gels to their 10th consecutive state title. State College's Cohen Russell is like another Cohen who was slept on coming out of high school because of the size, the Chicago Bears' Tariq Cohen. Russell is lacking the D1 offers because he's only 5'7", but he's one of the most explosive and versatile dudes from the class of 2019. Another big-time playmaker in 2018 was out in Kansas for Wichita Heights' Cavante Baker. He has one of the most explosive tapes in the country and was a highlight reel waiting to happen during his high school career. Monroe area's Chandler BYRON was one of the most productive players in all of Georgia this past season. He threw for nearly 1,500 yards and 18 scores, rushed for over 2,700 yards and 37 touchdowns. But the thing that speaks volumes on his tape is his toughness. What other quarterbacks do you see laying the wood on kickoff returns? He reminds me a ton of the New Orleans Saints' Taysom Hill, who was their Swiss Army knife. BYRON can bring that same type of versatility at the next level. Pinnacle's Spencer Rattler is the #1 rated quarterback from the class of 2019, and the Oklahoma signee's favorite weapon might be the most slept on guy in the country, Caleb Covington. He can line up all over the field. He had 42 receptions for nearly 1,000 yards and 8 scores, rushed for nearly 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and is also a big-time playmaker on special teams and can take it to the house anytime he gets his hands on the ball. Corona Centennial has 2 players featured in the top 100 list, and joining Kinslow is Reggie Retzlaff. He has the size and speed to be an impact player on Saturdays, and what is most impressive about him is he transitioned from being a quarterback to playing wide receiver and had a monster senior season against legit competition for the Inland Empire Power. Expect Retzlaff to keep getting better at the position, and he had nearly 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns for a top 25 team in the country. Longview won its first state title in 81 years, and one of the main reasons why was because of Kamden Perry. He hauled in 87 grabs for nearly 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns, and showed out in the UIL Texas 6A Division II state championship game with 8 receptions for 220 yards in their 35-34 win over Westbrook. JSERRA Catholic's Tyler Shimomura is also featured, and he's one of the most polished wideouts in all of California. Another Golden State receiver features Tulare Union 6'6" Darius Baker, who had a monster senior campaign with 85 receptions for 1,445 yards and 24 touchdowns. Boulder Creek's Hendrick Johnson has landed offers from Columbia, Brown, Georgetown, and Northern Arizona, but expects some more West Coast schools to show some interest in the next few weeks. He's one of the most underrated dudes in the country. He had nearly 1,500 yards receiving and 20 touchdowns in 2018. And hey, you can take it to the bank. Notre Dame's Mikel Broussard out in Sherman Oaks, California will be a guy we talk about down the road of being under-recruited. This dude's a straight beast on both sides of the ball, and as of now, he only holds offers from Eastern Washington, Florida Atlantic, and Rice, but expect some late offers to come before National Signing Day. Sticking in Southern California, the second player from JSERRA Catholic is the most underrated linebacker in my opinion, Victor Clanton. And you see his tape, and it's easy to see he has the instincts and skills to be an impact player on Saturdays. He had nearly 100 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks against legit competition during his senior season. A familiar name also cracks the top 100 list, Warren Sapp Jr., and just like his dad, he was a QB killer during his senior campaign. He was tied for second in the entire country with 24 sacks. A couple other notable names include Oil City's Christian Cole. The 6'1" linebacker was a huge factor on both sides of the rock. He rushed for over 3,000 yards and 46 touchdowns, while racking up over 100 tackles on defense with 2 interceptions. Pebblebrook's Trey Pinckney was also a tackling machine in 2018. He finished the year with 122 tackles, 39 tackles for loss, had 12.5 sacks, and also blocked 2 punts. When it comes to motors, I don't know if anyone has one like Valencia's Ben Seymour, and he showed he can do it against the best competition too. He was a straight savage against Mater Dei and balled out against some other top-tier programs in Southern California. Seymour's tape is as impressive as any other defensive player from the Golden State. The last guy featured on the video is a guy I strongly believe will be an impact dude on Saturdays, and it's Oxnard's Dom Brown. The 6'3" corner has amazing footwork, and his instincts are off the charts. He finished his senior season with 7 INTs and took 1 back to the house, and he is one of the best tackling DBs on the West Coast. His only offer so far is from Portland State, but don't be surprised if more start to come his way over the next 3 weeks. And for the complete list of the top 100, just go to MaxPreps.com or check out our Twitter page at MaxPreps.